Welcome to Fathernetics, Fatherhood Unfiltered. I'm Jamil. Welcome to the podcast.
You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it kamikaze. Go ahead and try, baby, you are gonna see that you'll never.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our next episode on Fathernetics. Today we have a very special guest. This is the one and only my mother, so I'll let her introduce herself, and then we'll get into some really cool questions about, parenthood in the viewpoint of a cisgendered individual, cisgendered couple, meaning, straight couple, and then, of course, some of the perspectives from the LGBTQ side, fatherhood, and some of the challenges that we experience today. So introduce yourself, Mom.
Hi, good morning or good day. My name is Sheryl, and I'll give you my middle name, Frederica. And maiden name is Brooks, and married name is Mears. And I am the proud mother of Jamil, who is my second born. My firstborn is a girl, Johara, and then I have Jamil, and my third is Abbas.
Awesome. So 3 kids, a wealth of experience. What do you do? What does your normal day-to-day look like in 2025?
Oh, now in 2025, my day to day is I'm actually retired I'm now 67 years old in a couple of days. And I am now been retired for almost maybe 10 years of that. And what I mean by retired is showing up every day to a job. I do a part-time job, and most of the time it's just 3 days a week. I do a couple volunteering. I belong to the Alzheimer's Association, and I am very active with them as a community presenter for them on the Alzheimer's side. So this is what I do on a day-to-day basis, and when I'm not working or anything, I'm traveling.
So tell us about the Alzheimer's Association. I know that's near and dear to your heart. How did that come to be something that you've devoted time to?
Well, the Alzheimer's Association came about because of my mom, Dorothy Brooks, and she had developed dementia of the Alzheimer's type in her late 70s or mid 70s. And she was a very active member of our community. And we started noticing some things about her. So when she was officially diagnosed, I decided that I will learn a little bit more because I knew nothing about dementia of the Alzheimer's type, more than what people just said is something that old people get. Well, I didn't consider my mom at 75 to be old. She was very active. And so I got involved with it head on, and I became a member of a support group. And then from the support group, when mom passed away, she lasted about 6 years after that with the dementia. And I took care of her along with my family, my husband, my children, my grandbaby, everybody. I had a very strong support system. So when I dove into the Alzheimer's Association, I felt a need to participate and find a cure. So I'm also involved in the clinical study of dementia of the Alzheimer's type, because I have 4 of her siblings were all females, had developed dementia. So I'm now an advocate, very active, do community service, do support groups, do walks, fundraisers. That's how I got involved with the Alzheimer's Association, forever dear to me.
So I think one of the things you mentioned is you identified a challenge or an issue or a need to better educate yourself, to be able to provide better support, understanding how to engage during grandma's time with her Alzheimer's. And I think that ties in pretty well with the goal of this particular podcast. As you know, Fathernetics by design is for fathers who are engaging in raising their children, whether they themselves, the parents, be LGBTQ plus, or the child is of LGBTQ origins. And of course, fatherhood, from my perspective, is more of a role, that can be donned by a male or female or any non-gendered individual. So I think that perspective in itself is the design, or at least the origins of Fathernetics. A lot of parents who do not have a background or an understanding of LGBTQ from a community perspective, who have kids either young or as adults that are LGBTQ plus, had to take the extra steps, right, to kind of educate themselves and better understand, what is this? Is it the same that was advertised years ago? Is it the same today? There's a social media component. People are more visible. There are rights that we now have as an LGBTQ community that are part of this. And of course, for myself and my husband, Nicholas, we have a child now that may or may not be part of the LGBTQ mafia, if you will. So going back to just a father perspective, what would you say are some of the lasting impacts or knowledge tidbits that you've gathered from your father that has made you a better parent?
Oh, that's very interesting because I always think about my dad. My dad died at a very young age. He died at 40 years old, and left my mom with 5 children.
No, that's where I'm 45. So that's
Yes. And so with dad, we call him daddy. And so he was a very active member of our community. But the memories I have of him is, first of all, he had the most deep voice ever. I think he spoke like God. Thunder. Dad felt like thunder. Very few words, but he was very active with us as the children. So when dad passed, I was 17, 18 years old. I had an older sister. She was 1 year older, and then 3 siblings below, one each year. So it was 5 of us. But what I remember about dad is that he was very straightforward, he's a man of very few words, but he was very active in his community, and it was an only child. And because of being an only child, he developed a strong relationship with his cousins, because his father had 7 siblings. And it was very important for him to develop relationship. So he never really missed a beat in regards to having a brother or a sister, because he had cousins that his mom and his father, who weren't married, but they co-parent him after he was 14 years old. So dad still resounds in my mind about fatherhood, not to mention the effect that my father-in-law had with me in regards to parenting as a father. So I could tell you I had 2 fathers.
Yes, I was only exposed to one, right? Because I think your dad passed away before I could know him, as probably my siblings as well. But what do you think you walked away from knowing him and the influences that he may have left with you and your sisters and your one brother?
The importance of community, and not only just a community of where you live, but he developed a strong love and importance of family, and what he called familia. It was something, that network that was so important to him, for us to know each other, respect each other, and help each other.
Yeah, so I think that's fairly evident in how we exist today. We're very close to your side of the family, probably more so because they're closer in age to us. Dad's side of the family has a lot of cousins and nephews and stuff like that, but they're much older. But we're very close and attached, and spent a lot of time with our cousins, your sisters. We all communicate, visit each other today. So I think that kind of resonates very strongly when it comes to community and, the village. It takes a village to raise your kids and stuff like that. I know dad is also very big on family and community, and remaining connected and passing down knowledge and history and a lot of the pedigree, if you will, of our family. So one of the differences that I see, obviously, with family and communication is the way that a lot of LGBTQ kids come out today, and they may have different experiences with their parents where they're ripped apart from their parents, their families, ostracized. We still see a lot of that happening today, less so, but we see a lot of that still happen today. Obviously, that was not my experience, but I guess one of my questions would be, as a parent who was not supporting, not by choice, right? You were not aware. So as a parent who was only aware of an LGBTQ son in my early 20s, what would you say that experience is today, and what would you recommend a parent who is kind of wading into those waters today?
Oh, okay. That's interesting because I have to go back to my Christian upbringing, which had a major effect on how I view. I look at we say come out, and I don't do it as a come out. To me, is a reveal, is a revelation of who you really are, and to the world, because you already know who you are. And involved with a lot of the kids in our community with our church, we had a lot of children that exemplified or displayed characteristics of either being effeminate or how tap into the gay or lesbian world. But because we were a group of people that was so unique in embracing it, we really didn't emphasize on the fact that that was not an important thing for us. We saw the genuineness of a child, the genuineness of a teenager trying to, when we went to retreats and stuff, there were several things, but most of the things that I was exposed to and the revelation of my child, the coming, like you say, coming out, but I say revealed, was that it was unexpected. There were no clues to me or to my husband and dad that he can reveal, he can have his own conversation with that. But there was not really nothing that I could have seen. Or some people say, well, you could have seen it. Why did you not see it? And I try to go back into my mind. I'm like, when you were always an example of your dad, you dressed this kind of way, you spoke, you articulated, you and your brother and your sister. So it was never something that was an overt way for me. So when it did come in you exposing and revealing yourself, I am till today, I tell people, don't fall for the conversation that you should have known, because there is a thing that, okay, you should have known and you should have seen it. So what difference does it make if I should have known and I should have seen it? I didn't, and I'm not in denial of it. And whether I did see it or not, what would have made a difference with my child coming out and revealing their genuine self? So back to that is the revelation was a process. It was a shock. It was a shaking of my own belief systems that have been taught and ingrained in us. Scriptures that can be, people just shoot them out. And it gave me the opportunity to go back in and read for myself and find out who I am as a mother to a child that now decides that they are a same-sex lover.
No, so you raise some good points. I think that a lot of parents often do deal with, I should have known. And it always comes with what context, like what exactly would you have done had you known, right? And I think a lot of people wrestle with, well, I would have made some minor changes to course correct.
Yes.
And I think that's the wrong mindset to have, because it's not predominantly or even a little bit of a choice, right? It's not, oh, I knew so I could change, so this would have produced a different outcome. What it would have done in any scenario, right, is for someone to be a little bit more aware of where to spend their time hiding it.
Yes.
A little bit more precisely. From my own experience, I was never hiding anything. I was always who I was. I was aware of it. These are all types of growing moments of self-discovery. Is this really who I am? Am I really focused on this? I dated girls in high school. because I thought that was what was expected of me. So I went down that particular path. Obviously, those particular journeys did not work for obvious reasons. But me still, the dressing and the suits and the taking a lot of the characteristics that I got from you and Dad, the public speaking and the mannerisms and stuff like that. Those were all part of who I was. But I think there was always a layer of trying to be more masculine. Not that I was veering into any of the feminine sides, which is fine for a lot of people. There are a lot of feminine men out there who are not gay.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, there's the spectrum is so wide on how people are themselves.
Yes.
And we try to avoid what society would cast as aspirations on us. That individual dresses a certain way, therefore they must be this. And that's not always the case.
Yes.
And sometimes that forces people to behave contrary to the way they feel most comfortable. So I would say to that, it's amazing to have both parents who've spent time to say, this is a new revelation. It's an aha moment. It's a shock. We took the time to process that. And then we took the additional step to say, let's learn about that.
Yes.
And, with my son, I am going through the similar experience, not on the LGBTQ plus, but because he's ADHD and deals with a lot of neurodivergent behaviors. Nicholas and I have spent a lot of time researching and understanding how do we engage with this individual that is different than how we would traditionally engage with other people, and try to meet him where he is. Not in a way to say we're going to change him. It's more of a way of changing ourselves to make sure that he can be who he needs to be.
Yes.
So I think those are fantastic.
If you don't mind me interrupting.
Yeah.
The word understanding, that's been a powerful word. I've relearned that word, and all it means is to come under something. And if I may say, that was the part of the journey. That's the word that kept coming up for me in my journey with learning that I may not have the daughter-in-law, when we never really did a lot of perspective on what we expect to you guys as the children. How did we want y'all to get married? What we never really push that a lot. I don't think so. I can't remember when we tried to veer y'all in. Most of the times you guys brought people to us. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it was never like, when are you guys going to get married? No, that was never
a thing. But coming understanding now, shifting my perspective, because I would like this whole audience know, our number one thing is that kept me and your dad is, we love this boy. That was, we knew with all uncertainty, we loved him no matter what. So now how do we navigate him in this whole, how we support him in this way, how we have to change and come under a different perspective of how we look at things. And when you change your perspective, then you have a lot of things that you decide to let people know about you or let people not know about you. And we navigate a lot in that. We chose not to defend my son, you, how he choose or how he wants to or how he cannot change because he is what he is. We made it our perspective to invite people into our world. Even when they started talking now, our ears started hearing even more now, because now we have that reticular activity that comes as soon as you get revelation about something. All of a sudden it
mind
starts.
expands. Yeah, you start to see it.
And so our eyes, and he and dad always stood on, open the eyes of our understanding. And that's when we understood that understanding does have eyes. You can choose to close it, or you can, and we decide to walk through it.
So with that, what do you say to parents who are not as keen to that level of understanding and have hesitated, or perhaps are today going through that experience saying, how do I get to a level of understanding? Because that in itself is a journey. It's not an overnight process. And I think a lot of people feel that, yes, your child has come out, right? Air quotes, your child has come out, but they've kind of been dealing with this for years.
Some of them are from infants.
Where they are. Exactly.
Yeah.
They've kept it to themselves. They're 19 or 20, maybe 15, whatever that age happens to be. But the person that you're telling is now, in this very second, dealing with everything that you've had years to deal with. So how do you engage with a parent who may be trying to get to the end point of that journey?
First of all, that as a parent or a close friend or whatever, how much do you love them?
Mm-hmm.
Because that will determine if your love is. We talk about this unconditional love and no bars and all that, but it is tested. And when you look at the whole experience, is how do you? No, the question is not how do you do it, because it's not an issue with you. It's how do we learn to navigate this? How do you get into their world? How do you allow them to speak of their world without prejudgment? So you learn now to cut down all the stuff that you had always believed in or always understood, and understand that now your understanding is shifting. And when you do that, you no longer care about other people's perspective. You only want yours, in order for, like I said, our love was bigger than you, whatever sexual preference you had. That was not the issue.
And now for a brief break. I thought I was writing a simple story about adoption, how it feels, what it looks like from the inside. But the deeper I got, the more I realized Paper Cradles was about connection, about how we build trust with kids who didn't start with us, about how love expands, not replaces, and how becoming a parent isn't a single moment, it's 1,000 small ones. This book means a lot to me, and it's already starting conversations I did not expect. So if you ever found yourself building something beautiful from the inside out, I hope you'll read it. Paper Cradles is out now. Follow along on Instagram at JMayers Publishing or here on Fathernetics. There's more to come. And now back to the show.
Protecting may be something that started at first, being very aware of people's conversation. And I remember one time you told me, I was saying something, I don't remember how it went, and then you said, "Mom, you don't have to defend it." And I was like, "You're right. I can tell people before they get into a conversation that is going left, and I am not being truthful with them when I'm talking to them, and I hear their perspective about the
LGBTQ. Yeah, lots of letters. LGBTQ.
Yes, that would get me for that. But at the end, I look at it and I said, I would not allow you to continue on this path talking with me, knowing what I know about this. So, depending on how important you are to me, I would let you know. Hold up, let me give you a little insight about me. I do have a child that is in that family, in the community, culture, in the LGBT, and I just want you to know that, so that anything from here on, you can guard it or
boundaries.
Not. I'm coming. Yep. I'm gonna come on that, and amazingly, people back down. And then I have to tell them, don't back down of what you have, because now your understanding of somebody that is a same-sex lover has nothing to do with you. It has to do with what you have been taught. And we as a culture had to learn how to navigate this. And it wouldn't be truthful to me to you for me to make you continue down that road without letting you know. So you have a chance now to just stop, or we can go further because I'm gonna blow your mind right now. Especially me that had been a youth director involved in my church, very vocal in my church. This was a turning point for me in order to have conversations. So things had become much more clearer to me. I did not regress and look back in your past and see, oh, well, at that time, he displayed that. He displayed that. No, I didn't. Maybe dad might have, but not me. What I was saying is, how can I come under this? Because you see, I'm not worried about my salvation. It was secure. I knew who I was, and I knew you needed to be who you were because you displayed to me your love for family, period. And it was important for you to let us know. And I think that's what happened to you. You could no longer allow us to continue on a path when you knew that there was something you needed to let us know so that we could make a decision or whether we wanted to go further with this or not.
I think it's important for people to people that you love to be aware of your full self, and that includes a conversation, especially if you're close to individuals and you're used to having, you talk about everything but this.
Yeah.
So it's like at some point, there needs to be a conversation. I would admit and say that before I came out, my goal was to never come out. So that looking back, that would have led to a very unhappy life because you, dad, my family, obviously brother, sister, cousins, you guys are such an integral part of my existence to just kind of have that, be outside of the realm of knowledge, right? To end up hiding Nick. And now, that may have somehow ended up where we didn't get to have Jacob, because it's a snowball effect. So coming out was probably one of the best things that occurred to me. Obviously it was not planned. It was one of those here we are kind of moments, which happens a lot to people in the LGBTQ community. They hesitate, and then the moment's there, and oftentimes that's the only way to do it.
Yes,
is to rip the Band-Aid off. A lot now in our society, kids are a lot more comfortable enough to come out with their parents and say, you either accept me or not. I'm either here or I'm not, or I can go somewhere else, or so there's a bigger level of courage that comes with seeing others go through that experience. I don't know if you know, but YouTube has a lot of people who have coming out stories.
Yeah.
They have coming out month, where people go on and post their coming out stories. A lot of them are favorable, some of them are not. But regardless of where they land, they're encouraging others to say, this is who I am. This is what I need to do in order to be happy with myself. And if you're happy with yourself, then those around you will also be happy if they're supportive and understanding of what you're going through. One of the items that you touched on is religion. And I think that is a big component, or at least was for me. I think you and I spoke briefly once upon a time about our pastor and when he was on a radio station talking to someone about something. And I said, I'm going to reach out to him and say, tell me your thoughts on LGBTQ. And at the time, that radio program had a very small amount of listeners. And I think they were just kind of starting, trying to get, the buzz out there. So my question landed at the top, but they did not address it.
No.
And I think that since I've been going to church, those in the LGBT community have been very visible, but no one says anything.
Exactly.
Right. They're in the church. They're, the First Lady's aide. They are leading church groups. They're dancers in the dance club, and they're everywhere. And those are the ones you can tell, right? Because they've got more of a feminine mannerism. That does not account for those who do not have those qualities, and you can tell just by looking or talking to them, very much like myself was, or I am today. But at the same time, it wasn't addressed from the pulpit. Like, you're gay, you're going to hell. It was just one of those, like, they're
Subtle.
not talking about it. So there's obviously something wrong, because it comes up. You see it. Everybody sees it. So I think during the coming out era for myself, that was always a concern of how people from the church would perceive that. And if I'm being honest, that did drive me a little bit away from the church, because I didn't want to have those conversations with those people, my friends from the church, who, my friends were very vocal about what gay meant to them from a Christian perspective.
Yeah.
So needing to have those conversations with them, didn't want it. So I cut them out. They were all gone. And are still gone to this day. And that's fine, because I've built a new community of people who understand me, think like me. They're straight, but they support me. My family supports me. So do I need to go back and tie that in? No. So I guess my question is, from your Christian journey, I'm still a Christian, you're still a Christian, but, being able to unravel some of what has not been said from the pulpit to now who you are as a Christian, what was that journey like?
Well, basically, it was like I said, I just did this the way how I dove into the Alzheimer's Association. I had to dive into yours, but yours was before I had to do with Alzheimer's. So I already had a little practice with you on how to navigate certain things that I used to believe. And one of the biggest support was that your dad and I talked a lot about it. We exchanged our thoughts, our fears, our anger, our frustration with each other first before we even started, as we built our strong base in supporting you. And so by the time we started to now open up and allow certain people in, we were already strong in what we were saying and what we were not saying. And with the Christian faith, I had to redo. I had to go back in and look for myself, not to justify, not to find a way how I could finagle it and make it work for me, because I found out too, a lot of people when their loved one comes out, they lean more towards, I'm going to hell. And you are
Or I
supporting.
did something wrong.
Yes, and we turn the finger on ourselves, when easily you turn it on yourself, then you take it off on somebody else. So my point is, we did not point the finger at ourselves most of the time. We only checked and said, what did we do? What did we miss? And I think that's the foundation of a lot of it. The self-question comes first. If somebody tell you they never questioned it, or they don't try to go back into their past and figure out if somebody molested my child, if somebody, if they went in somewhere, because that's where, and I have to say, as African-American Black men, that's where they go. And we, from a culture where we came from, with the Jamaican descent and how they talked about gays and lesbians and stuff, that was the vocabulary that came. And we always went to the bedroom. Why was it so important how somebody handles their bedroom affair was beyond me. What do you care that happens within closed doors? There are certain things that we heard that people do. I was involved in an organization in which we teach teenagers. It's called Teenage Pregnancy Prevention Program. Mm-hmm. And when I look back and looking at it, we were talking about how do you have a healthy sexual relationship with another person. But we never talked about having a sexual relationship with the same sex person, because that was taboo. You would blow. That was not in our day and age. Mm-hmm. But now we're able to talk about that because now we can identify. Not everybody comes out. It's not a dress rehearsal. It's not. You don't get to dress up. And like you said, in our church atmosphere, it was all over the place. It was obvious what was going on, but it was never overtly. And now I found out that a lot of people, a lot of ministers could not come out and do that, because we have preached against this so long that they would have been targeted, and whatever
called
it is,
fake and right,
and
stealing from the church.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah.
But you had the best dancers, you had the best singers, you had the best pianists, organists. everybody that
I heard,
love
I
God.
think it was TD Jakes, maybe, that said that most of the gay people have written the best hymns and songs that we all sing in church on a weekly basis.
Exactly. Because you know what? They have a pain and a way of worshiping God is totally different, especially when they're struggling and can't come out and say it. Then so they and the Spirit of God has a different anointing. All and we all fall in love with it as long as we don't know their private business.
But as soon as we know, then it's not the Christian, it's the religious angle that comes down heavy
and
on them.
and we always say, you hear this, I know you heard this before, it's like when somebody tell you who they are, believe it. Is does that apply to this culture? No, we don't want that. When they tell you who you are, we look and we down them and we outcast them because there's something wrong with them. And what is so wrong with how you choose to love somebody? I've heard somebody told me, and I had to straighten them up. Is like, men are not to be with men, women are not to be with women, because how would we procreate? I said, well, if you go looking at the animal kingdom, there are some self-procreating same. So, oh, I didn't know that. You might want to study a little bit more to find out that God is not defined only by our human nature. It's the universe, the whole creation has this way how he does things.
Well, procreation is not our only goal.
Thank you.
We procreate at this point too much. Now we're overpopulating.
Exactly.
Right. And this ties into a lot of the adoption conversations that I've had on this podcast. In Arizona alone, there's more than 10,000 kids that don't have families.
Yes.
Right. So do we continue to procreate and leave them to the wayside? Or do we take advantage of the loving families that are available, whether they're LGBTQ or not, to be able to support the kids? Is procreation raising human beings that can function properly in society, or is it just dropping a kid?
Well, there's still so much of culture that women have been raising children all without a male figure in their house. They've been doing it for years.
And mother and father.
and
But that's the role I'm referring to, right?
Yes.
A lot of mothers have to be both mother and father.
Because as humans, we have both things inside of us.
Exactly.
When Eve, this is my version. When Eve came out of Adam, Adam already had a female in him.
Yes.
So if we start looking at this way, we are just limiting the way how creation was, because we have a limited mentality. We only can go but just so far. And so when we indoctrinate ourselves to think a certain way, this is what we pass down. So now we have to make that shift. And the ship has gone so far away that now we're having a hard time. This generation understands this. Is the prior generation, our fathers and great grandfathers, that can't understand because they had not come into this type of world that we're in. So to make an, in essence, is I'm looking at the fact that don't worry about how they came here, what we're gonna do while they're here. There are men that are that can raise a child, can change a diaper, can give them milk, can do all that, because in our humanness, we have both things inside of us. Is the one that is more dominant than the other? Does it have to be? We just have to realize that we are broken families, and what adoptions, some people can't procreate on their own. So what about a person that have a baby and decides to give that? Oh, there are millions of people that have been foster caring and adopted, and they're not blood related.
Yep.
And we
Family of your choosing. Yep.
Exactly. And I've heard Jacob said so many times. He always he used to tell me, he's like, "Abuela, I have two dads. Who gets two dads?" You know. And but we have made him be cocky about it. There's nothing wrong with it. What if he tomorrow wants to be whatever he wants to be? We have to help him steer in the genuineness of himself.
Right. It's a character building that we're trying, the foundation. Whatever he ends up being will be based on that foundation, but his choice.
Yes.
And a lot of it is not a choice, right? A lot of it is really just growing into the human being that society
I'm glad you
needs
corrected that.
at that time.
I'm glad you corrected it, because a lot of people have this thing. It's a choice, and I was like, no, that's who they are. You did not choose to be a male or a female or whatever. You did not choose that. Nobody can define who you are. I keep going back to, we have both of our genders inside of us. And so if we choose, if it's a choice, then we can say from the beginning, is when we grow up and manifest ourselves to the world in our genuineness. Because we as human beings will always be hiding. There's something always that we'll do that we're trying to hide. That's part of the nature of the garden. Period.
We'll always hide that which we're still striving to understand ourselves.
Right. And that's why we have to be so careful when we talk to people. Listen to what they're saying so that you can understand in what area they're going. It doesn't negate a father's manhood that their son decided that they're going to be a same-sex lover. That has nothing to do with you. But now that you have this information, what are you going to do with the child that has been entrusted for you to be their father?
Yeah, I think, and one of the closing points here, I think one of the things here is making sure that we allow those who are just now finding out that they're dealing with an LGBTQ child to process that and better shift or do that paradigm shift, right? To say, this is not about me. It's about how I'm going to react to this individual who has just now become vulnerable enough to test you to see, what are you going to do? Is that love that you've said is unconditional? Is that true? Or is it not? And I think that a lot of us who know that it's true still hesitate because of what we've seen out there. It's all about what we consume, which is why representation is important, which is why we see a lot more gay characters on TV in the movies, a lot more Asian characters on TV in the movies, a lot more transgendered individuals on TV and in the movies, because now it gives those individuals the courage to be able to say, hey, I'm not here to force you to get gay married. I'm just saying it should be my option if I choose to do that. You don't want to get gay married? Don't get gay married. Right? But to what benefit does it make outlawing gay marriage? How does that prevent you from accidentally gay marrying someone? It's kind of one of those, like,
we shouldn't be voting against who sleeps with who or who does whatever, because your heterosexual do some weird things too.
So that's a podcast for us. All right, Mom. This has been a fantastic opportunity to kind of deconstruct a lot of the mindset that goes into parenthood from a parent who has recently or has discovered that their child is an LGBTQ at a young adult, versus those that come out at such an early age, and a lot of interplay that has to do with the religion component as well. So I appreciate you spending time. I'm sure we're going to have more to cover on this, because as we get into more specifics on religion and perhaps even some of the law that has changed to impact the LGBT community, and when we talk about politics and what Trump is doing versus what may have occurred during the Obama years and what may come next, who comes after Trump, what does that mean for someone like me, an LGBTQ dad who is raising an 11-year-old, soon to be 12-year-old? Does that impact me? And one of the topics that we'll cover at some point in the future is the separation of families, right? People who voted for Trump without realizing that what they were doing is voting against someone who is LGBTQ in their family.
I just want to know what's the fear all about. Why everybody's so afraid of?
Hey.
Why are we so afraid? It's change, and it's part of it. And I believe that the quicker we embrace change and stop trying to limit the universe from doing what it does, I think we will be much better. And remember, we are not the world. There are other countries and other cultures that are doing a whole lot different.
Who do it better. Actually, they're a lot more further along in their mindset than we are today. We're squabbling over peanuts, where we should be focusing on bigger things. Anyway, with that said, again, I appreciate everyone taking the time to listen, and we'll talk again on our next episode. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Do it. You can never find somebody do it like me. I'ma turn it all the way up, cause it coming.